Hello and welcome to the TTT News Special. I'm DK Rossa. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are going to be speaking with the founder and fashion connector of Hamil's, a man by the name of Conrad Parris. And even before we get into anything such as the Better Man Expo, which is on June 19 and 20, I want to dive down into say, He says, you say that the esteem of an individual is closely related to the level of care that person pays to themselves.
That's correct.
Take me on the journey explaining that.
Well, my team and I have had conversations, and I have had conversations over the years with men and women on this topic, informally, before I had actually conceptualized Hamil's as a brand, and before I conceptualized this event, where you realize that on my personal journey, that the more you know is the better that you can be, and once you decide to apply what you know, you can become better, and that applies to all things. That came out of my training as an actor, really, and I decided to apply that to my life. And I'm thinking that, tying that in with my love of fashion, particularly local fashion, local designers, and the grooming products that surround all of those things, I am thinking that, this is something that should be shared with Trinidadian men to start with. I'd love to share this with the world, but let's start at home. Share this with Trinidadian men and all of these things tied to it, because my personal experience, and I'm sure any person could agree that, when you dress better, or you smell good, or you eat well, or you rest well, exercise well, you do feel better, and that adds to the value that you carry out into the world. And that is what the Better Man Expo seeks to explore.
And this is something that takes me into broken windows theory, which looks at it lightens windows to the community, and basically says, if you have the place looking better, it will be easier to maintain it. It will be harder for somebody to just say, okay, well, I'm going to throw this away, or going to commit an illegal activity. But if the place done run down already, it's not taking anything to keep it that way. And so it is interesting how you can scale it up to the macro or scale it down to the micro, and it still has this level of applicability. But with regard to scaling down, no, please go ahead, I remember the question.
No, I just wanted to corroborate that and say that, because I have the macro vision, broken windows theory in mind, I'm thinking, in this time when everybody is in their own silo trying to perhaps repair themselves or better themselves, for not when things go back to normal, but in the new dispensation that's coming, because this is actually what's taking place. We're not going to return to what we knew before. And in order to prepare for that, I think we have the opportunity individually to better ourselves, reevaluate ourselves, what our contribution to our society could be, and try to take steps to that. And the expo is a forum where we can get together and actually have discussions on it. It's not just about fashion. Fashion does play a key role in it, because it has long been an informal fashion line, and we'll be focusing on the fashion aspect of things on Saturday the 19th. And on the 20th, we're going to be having some discussions surrounding manhood and masculinity, and where we are, and perhaps where we can go, and give some insight into careers, into finance, into health, into a little bit of spirituality, and everything that we can afford to fit into from 9 a.m. to 2:50 p.m.
And this sounds like a very holistic sort of thing, Conrad. And I'm wondering though, when you say get together, let's just state it categorically. When you say get together, are you talking about physically getting together, or is it going to be happening virtually?
It is definitely going to be happening virtually. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to clarify that. No, Mr. Griffith, I am not trying to encourage gatherings in the midst of this and try to break those protocols. I am not trying to do that. We were focusing on making this a physical event originally, but of course, lockdown came up and we had to pivot. And we are pivoting to an event platform called Hamil, where we will be inviting the wider public to register and join us very soon. We'll be doing that very soon. And for now, for all the information that you could need about the event, the Better Man Expo, you can always head to eastyard.com. Eastyard, the community social arts for change space in Arima, is our partner in this event. And you can check out eastyard.com for further information.
One of the things I like to do, Conrad, is ask holy buck follow-up questions. Now, you're giving me plenty to work with, but there's something that you said a little earlier. Yeah, man. And then people don't throw an empty mango tree. But you made a distinction, and I want to follow up on that to get a little more, please. You made a distinction between fashion and local fashion. What are some of the markers or the signposts that help you make that distinction?
I believe that we here in Trinidad and Tobago, culturally, we have had to coin a brand which I'm wearing right now, Saga Boy culture. We have had Saga Boy culture. Saga Boy culture is one of the exhibitors that will be there with us on the 19th. By shouts to all. Yes, we have long had a Saga Boy culture. You could date it right back to the era of Calypso, where these men, although they may have been seen sometimes as ruffians and ragamuffins, they were always well presented. They took care of themselves. Of course, their ego was attached to that. And not that I'm trying to encourage a return to ego, but to consider how important our ego is and to nurture it so that we can have a clear vision of who we are and where we can go. Back to fashion, local fashion. The distinction that I make is that because of who we are and where we are geographically, what that does to the climate, and all of those things, the designers here in Trinidad and Tobago are very well aware of those particular specifications when they put together clothing for men here in Trinidad and Tobago, for people in general. But we're focusing on men. And
I want to speak about some of that focus in just a bit when we return from a short break. We are speaking with Conrad Parris about the Better Man Expo. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are speaking with Conrad Parris. It's about the Better Man Expo, June 19 and 20. It's a virtual event. And the fact that you're focusing, just before we went to the break, you said in this case, you're focusing more on men. Is that eat little before and live long? Was the inspiration behind saying, okay, well, this is our intentional point of focus at this point in time?
All right. Well, let me take it back a little bit to the inspiration for this entire thing. Of course, let's start with the name, Hamil's. Hamil was my father, Hamilton Parris. He was one of the founding members of Trinidad Workshop. He was an actor. He worked directly and very closely with the likes of Lola directly worked himself, Albert Laveau, Errol Jones, Stanley Marshall, Charles Applewhite, Claude Reed, Eunice Allen, so many, Mavis John, so many of these artistic luminaries that we have there too. And also, outside of that, he was a father of three boys. I am the last of his. Um, and he was a husband, and he had mentored and neighbored so many people. His fashion sense was actually, it was cool, and he always looked good, but it was always very functional, very. When you looked at my parents' wardrobe, my mother's wardrobe took up the majority of the space, and my father had his little corner, and he was okay with it. The 10 items of clothing he had, they always looked fresh because he knew how to take care of it. He also was an amateur tailor. He made some school uniforms. I, you know, I if I have to go back to regrets, I would regret not appreciating um, the handiwork that he put in. I had wanted a different type of cut to my pants, and he gave me what he needed. But those pants were so well made that I couldn't possibly get rid of them at the time. So I could thank him for that now in retrospect. As a child, no. But yes, taking all that into consideration, he is the inspiration for this, for the name, at least, for the ethos. And also what inspired me is, my personal journey. For the past few years now, I have had a long-standing love affair with fashion. I remember as a teenager in particular, I was looking at what seemed to me to be a local fashion. I don't know if to call it a renaissance, but there was this, what seemed to me a very historic period where we saw the cloth and first chapter Adam and mailing. They were putting on all of these fantastic shows that I would read about in newspapers and see ads for on television. And I would always be fascinated by this. Fast forward to my early adulthood when I started earning a living, and I was figuring, I can finally step out of the hand-me-down era, and step into buying some of my own clothes. And I looked towards local fashion. I looked towards who was around me. I looked at Millhouse in particular. God bless Gregory Mills. He had his store in the Express building right in Independence Square. I spent a couple years just going there, making friends and influencing people before I actually bought anything, because I was just so intrigued at all the work that he was putting on. I couldn't afford it at the time. But when I did, I went downhill. I went all in, because this was great quality stuff. It was well made. It looks great. I still own some of those pieces to this day. They have faded, they aged very well. And I can say that about a lot of the fashion products that I have bought, made locally here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I took that into consideration a couple of years ago. I said, but this is something I am not sure that men in particular, right here in Trinidad, realize. They may be very well latched on to what normally persists. These foreign brands, you're not too sure if what you're buying is the actual product. It could be a knockoff. You don't know if these things are responsibly made.
And speaking about knockoff though, Conrad, we're going to knock off at this juncture. So if you want to hear the rest of this conversation, you need to tune into the digital platforms. But at the same time, thank you for tuning in at this point in time. Stay with us though. If you are here with us, that means that you are on one of our digital platforms, TTT Live online, either YouTube or Facebook. We want to thank you for making the time. We're speaking with Conrad Parris of Hamil's. He is the founder and fashion connector. And Conrad, just before we broke, you were speaking about the fact that sometimes you buy from outside because that is what you see. in terms of like it's put into the gaze, it's there, it's hyped,
Yes.
but you're not sure what it is you're necessarily getting, where it's made, whether or not it's sweatshop labor, whether or not it's something that is, and there are a whole, they run the gamut of factors to look at. But you
Yes.
said something, and I want to go back to it, because you're speaking of something like a renaissance and looking at these local brands just occupying the limelight. What is interesting about that, though, this is at a point in time when it was, let's say, a great deal harder for some of those brands from outside to come into Trinidad and Tobago. So there was that space.
Exactly. And we are in a similar space right now, once again. And I'm thinking about the macro area, the larger picture. If we tap into and this will go for everything, my focus is on fashion. If we tap into those local artisans, those local designers, those local producers of grooming products, accessories, that I could coin the example of Spectre here, who is one of our exhibitors at the expo. He makes these fantastic, well-made, good-looking, sturdy, durable, yet fashionable, depending on how you want to customize it. He makes these accessories, bags, dog kits, vests, tactical vests. He makes these things himself. And these things are of international standard. Listen, I'm not just saying that because it's me. I'm saying that because it's him. It's the work that he's putting in. And he is just one of so many people out there. And I believe that if we invest, this is one way that I'm talking about self-investment. If we invest in ourselves as a community, from the fashion level, from so many aspects, we can bolster our economy, but we could also bolster that sense of community that we seem to be lacking in as much as we may not necessarily be able to get in physical touch with each other. We can definitely get in touch enough virtually. And certainly through what your neighbor down the road is making, you could know that this is you, so that when we finally get to leave these shores, instead of rocking something that comes from somewhere else so that you could blend in and look like a regular Joe or Jane inside of Trinidad and Tobago, why not wear something that comes from where you come from, so that you could represent your country wherever you go? You can wear the cloth, you can wear mail, you can wear either bespoke or chill or spectacle or Saturday culture, whatever it is, because this is what, albeit aesthetically, but it goes interiorly as well. This is what shows the world who we are. Now is a time to really zone in and hone our identity so that we can put it out there. So again, this period that we're going through, this cocoon period, once we emerge from it, we could at least have started having a conversation about who we are and where we can be together.
And I like the fact that you speak about the period as well, and bring the visual of the cocoon to the fore, because one of the things that I am seeing, and this is anecdotal evidence, seeing things that people are posting, is demolition of mental kind of parameters, in terms of like, this is the area that I operate between. So you see people being made more vulnerable, so therefore being a little more comfortable with that vulnerability, although it's not something that comfortable, but
yes.
but you're also finding individuals seem to be a little more willing to do certain things, in terms of learning to cook, putting something in the earth and looking at it grow, and coming out of the cocoon with those different skill sets, or just different, not even necessarily a skill set, because they may try it and it may not work at peace, but at the same time being willing, because I know someone who says that it's not always our ability that is required as much as our availability and being able to be present in that moment. But in terms of
Correct.
moving out though and saying, okay, well, your area of focus at this point in time is fashion, I also want to ask about a definition or your working definition of self-care. Because I can see some people saying, as soon as they say self-care, oh God, well, I'm pampering myself, and oh gosh, I have time for that. I'm a big man like me. So when you say self-care, what do you mean?
All right. I'm very glad that you asked that. Now, the very self-same thing that you said, you know, some men would brace at the idea of self-care. Why need that for? You know, and immediately, you know, people have preconceived notions of self-care. They think, you know, filing in, getting massages, and that kind of stuff, which is absolutely necessary. It really is, especially for me. Um, it also entails mental health, spiritual health, that sense of community. Um, we have a culture here in Trinidad, particularly among men, and you know, I mean, I have been guilty of this, and I have grown up seeing this, where you know, as a man, you're supposed to be to take care of things on your own. That is not true. We we need we need help. We need to know that you know, men in particular could be there to help us. We we've been living through a period for perhaps 20 years, maybe more, where we've been seeing what's branded as crimes of passion, particularly committed by men. They they decide to take out the problems on their spouse and possibly children, and then in their own homes. And I mean, I would love to see total eradication of that. That is going to take a very long time. But what I believe that we can do is seriously start the conversation amongst ourselves and not brush things off. You know, turn down the pecan culture a little bit. It's like, oh, you can't take it if your woman earns more than you. You can't take it if someone calls you a particular thing. Um, you know, all of these things that men have culturally internalized, to take a look at it and see what needs to be dismantled, see what needs to be reassembled, see what we could keep, see what we could alter. To have those conversations, that comes into the Sunday component, Father's Day component of the 20th, where we'll be having conversations geared towards, you know, what we can do all through the course of the expo, both on Saturday and Sunday. There will be a particular focus on Sunday as to, you know, steps we could take to really ameliorate the situation. You know, see how we can help each other, connect to each other, and help each other.
No, you started speaking about the community that is a part of this initiative on the 19th and 20th of June. So you spoke about Saga Boy Culture, you spoke about Spectre Gear. Who are some of the other players involved? You spoke about East Yard. Who are some of those others, the other people forming that community to raise the individuals on these 2 days?
All right. Well, on the fashion end of things, in addition to Spectre Gear and Saga Boy Culture, um, we also have designers like Harvey Robertson's Dow Creations. A lot of us are very familiar with Dow Creations. We're very glad to have him, a good man. We also have TTT, who does great urban wear. You would immediately assume that urban wear is the domain of American, possibly even Japanese culture. There's also some great urban layer designers out in Europe as well. But you would immediately think that if that is your style, that is your spectrum. Well, perhaps men need to know that urban layer is also developed. And TTT has a great understanding of blends the concepts of urban layer and tech layer. For those of us who are very tech savvy, like to keep all different types of devices on us. He has clothing, suits, all of it. It's wonderful. Everybody needs to see it and get in. We also have designers like Asa Market, the former Arlene Singh. She is a long-standing fashion practitioner and also a fantastic visual artist. We get the opportunity for her to grace her presence within our platform. As well, we also have grooming producers like the beardologist, Nico St. Rose, Crystal Mirage at Hamil Body, and so many others. You know, I'm getting excited with just trying to go through the entire list. But these are just some of the people that you could get to interact with virtually at the expo, particularly on site.
All right, and as we close, remind us about how we engage again, please, in terms of like the days. Yes, we know it's June 19 and 20, but exact times, how people can get more information, and if there is something that can be followed up after. Because, you know, sometimes you say, okay, well, you listen to something or you look at it, and 3-4 times down the road, each time you glean another nugget of wisdom because you're at a level
Correct.
where you can accept it. Will this forum be curated in a way that people can go back to it and glean different pearls of wisdom?
Absolutely. Now, to talk of the question, is to give that information. The Better Man Expo is taking place on the 19th and 20th of June. It's Father's Day weekend, Juneteenth weekend, Labor Day weekend, and also at the end of International Men's Health Week. All of those things happen so fast. And it will be hosted on the hopin.com event platform, which is free. All you will have to do, once we send out the registration information, sign up, and you can join us on the 19th and 20th from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on each day. For further information, you can go to www.eastyard.com, and the information that is going to be recorded. The information that you will see there will be used in promotion of the actual exhibitors who will be participating, and there will also be YouTube links to each of their presentations. And the final view, all of this is with the view to launching the Hamil.com website, which will come in due time. And all of those things will be hosted on that platform, and more content will be added as time goes on.
This is what people talk about, scaffolding initiatives. Yes. But we want to thank you and we want to thank you so much for sparing the time, Conrad, and this fantastic.
Thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. I'm glad for the opportunity to be magnetized by you.
Yeah, man, because the road to help you with good intentions. And so many people say, you know, we could have do with this or we could have do with that, but to actually take on that work and do it towards implementation so we can look forward to it on the 19th and the 20th is something not to sneeze at. And once again, we want to thank you, Conrad, and we want to thank you if you've been tuning in. And till the next one, have a blessed one. See you later.
Have a blessed one.